about your jobs. And also that we're all in different fields. Because I'm sure you guys probably also speak or are on panels, but it's usually in your field. And then so it's kind of directed, you know, in your field. So this is a nice, really nice variety. So I'm a screenwriter, which means I write scripts for movies. And I actually recently wrote a play that we put up on the Hollywood Fringe Festival. So I guess I'm a writer because I hope to also, you know, be an author of books and you know, just really explore all kinds of writing. So my field primarily in writing screenplays and trying to sell movies is it's really an industry that's very limited. It's women and people of color really underrepresented. So back to your slide, Lily's slide about Asian Americans in Hollywood. Recently there's a study, I think it might be about 2 years old, but the study saw that Asian female protagonists are the least represented group of any other group on screen other than Native Americans, which actually don't even factor in a percentage because the numbers are so low. So for me, my mom is Vivian Fu, and she, I guess, well, what? Well, I was always encouraged, I think, just to do what I wanted to do. And I got into writing because I was encouraged by people along the way, family, teachers, and friends, that something I was writing, that there was something interesting in it, and I should just keep going. So that's really how I became a writer. And when I got into this industry and saw just, with every year that I'm in it, and then I kind of get up one more rung on the ladder, and I'm seeing how underrepresented people like me look on screen, I've been very passionate, now especially as I'm getting older and sort of have more resources, to really create roles for women, for Asian women on screen. So when I write my stories, I always say Taiwanese, Taiwanese American, Taiwanese woman, and then I'll tell you about some of the projects I've worked on. Inevitably, when we go to casting, when we start putting things together, and depending on who is financing the project, it may change to a Korean American actress, or it may shift. But I always think that even just putting that in the script and having all the people who come on board and have read my script, that they will see that that I'm identifying as Taiwanese American. And then I'll call my mom and I'll say, well, what are some really specific details about have a funeral, and if this is a Taiwanese American family, what are some details I can put in there that are really specific to our culture? So those are some of the things that I think about when I'm writing. So this first slide is The Sisterhood of Night, which is a feature film that I wrote and co-produced, and I think some of you in the room helped with our Kickstarter, which is amazing. The Kickstarter campaign was one of the ways we funded the film, along with about 9 other pieces of financing, including our uncles in Taiwan and a Turkish investor and lots of, so it was quite an undertaking. It was a $2 million budgeted movie. And it was based on a short story by Stephen Millhauser, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And he had a little story called The Sisterhood of Night that I optioned and adapted into a feature film. So when I read the story, there was no Taiwanese American family, but I saw there was an inspiration in it that felt like my childhood growing up in New Jersey. And so when I adapted it, I wrote in a Taiwanese American family, and I was able to portray 3 generations of the family, starting with the youngest son in the family, Hudson Yang, who's on Fresh Off the Boat. He played the youngest son, all the way up to the grandfather, the Gong Gong, who was played by Dr. Chen, that some of you might know. So it was cool to have all those generations, and then one of the main characters was Catherine Huang. So it was the Huang family, and we cast Willa Cathrall, and she played Catherine. So that was a really first special experience for me, to be able to have the power to be able to put that family in, and it was very special. So I think Dr. Chen was Taiwanese. We also cast for the father, Louis Ozawa Changxian, who is Taiwanese Japanese. Willa herself was born in China and is adopted by an American family. And I think that was everyone. Yeah. And this was released 2015, and it's on Netflix now. You want to check it out? Can I have the next slide? So this is a play that I recently wrote and put up just this past June. So we closed the play last Sunday. And it's called Breather. And it is about it's about two strangers who rent the same commercial space in Hollywood, this room. They rent it back to back each week, but they don't know each other. So you have these two plots unfolding, and then by the end of the play, these strangers finally connect face to face. So one of the plots in this play, two of the characters are costume characters who work on the Walk of Fame. So I don't know if you guys have ever gone to LA and gone to that really touristy area where all the stars are, on the walk, and then you might get approached by someone in costume to take a picture with them. So these are our two characters, and one plays Zorro, and the other plays Princess Elsa. So can I have the next slide? Or I think there's another one, this one, yeah. Okay, so these are some stills from our play. So what I did was, I thought, so Princess Elsa is from the movie Frozen, which a lot of you have probably seen, and we usually recognize her as, the traditional princess with blonde hair, and so I thought it would be cool to have, to kind of flip that, and have an Asian Princess Elsa. And so we have this Taiwanese girl who works the Walk of Fame in her Princess Elsa costume, and she, as you get to know her character, she really owns it, and she thinks I'm gonna kind of take this character that everyone thinks, is expecting to look a certain way, and I'm gonna make her my own. And that really came out of a couple things that I thought it was just kind of funny and kind of ironic. And also that lately there's been a lot of whitewashing and a lot of Asian roles that have been kind of taken, like Ghost in the Shell is one example, with Scarlett Johansson playing a character that's from a famous manga story. And I thought, so let's just flip that. And, so we're going to have this Asian woman take a character that, and bring it into her culture. So that was a little bit of what I was thinking with that plot line. Can we go back? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. And this is just another still from the play. Okay, so this is the third project I want to talk to you about. It's called Honored, and it's my second feature film, which is, the studio is Lionsgate, and we go into production the first week of August. So literally right now, the director and the locations and casting, they're all filling out the rest of our cast, and we're shooting in a high school in Los Angeles. And so this is really, really exciting. And this script is about 4 teenage girls who bury a time capsule when they're freshmen in high school. And it has a list of things that they want to accomplish before they graduate high school. So they go through high school and time passes and they kind of go their separate ways. But when the movie begins, one of the girls passes away. And so the other 3 get together and dig up the time capsule and decide to do everything on the list that they promised that they would do. They loved their friend who passed away. So with this film, it's another ensemble piece, so you'll kind of see a pattern that I have these ensemble pieces, and in each one, I'm finding a role somewhere in that ensemble for a Taiwanese American woman. And so my dream is really to sometime very soon, could be later this year, I'm constantly thinking what that role is where this Asian female protagonist is the main character, and it's a huge role that like fulfills the entire movie. And that's what I'm constantly trying to find what that idea is. And so up till now, I've found these ensemble pieces.
Do you have
So,
someone in mind? Do you have someone in mind?
For this one?
Yeah, for
This
that.
one's cast. So if you go to the next slide, I'll show you our cast. So there are actually 4 main girls in this ensemble. And it's called Honor because the girl who passes away, her name is Honor. And so the whole movie is kind of like in honor of her. So so I'll start in the middle because when I pitched this project, it was with Megan Rinks, who's the blonde actress in the middle, and we sold the pitch together, came up with the idea and sold the pitch together. So the whole, all the financing and Lionsgate coming on board and buying the pitch and all of that came through our collaboration. So on the left, and by the way, I'm really excited about how diverse this movie turned out because we really had to fight for this. It wasn't like the first 2 projects where I was, a principal producer, so I could make more of these choices. This one was a studio film, so we were pretty much at their mercy in terms of who was going to be cast. So on the left, we cast Arden Cho for the role of Honor. She's a Korean American actress. She was in Teen Wolf, and is great. I mean, she's a great actress. I've only seen her in a couple things, but I'm really excited about working with her. And then the third girl, her name is Karuche Tran, and she's in a series right now on TNT called Claws, which is about these women in a nail salon. And her background is Vietnamese, and I want to say, gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank. I think she's Vietnamese and African American. So, yeah, and just to kind of give you an idea of what happened with this casting, basically, when we went to cast Honor, Lionsgate said, well, this is, just for us in the room, right? They said that there were 2 Asian actresses they were willing to go to, and if neither of them wanted the role, then we were going to move on. And they had a list of all, like Caucasian actresses that we were going to go to. And this is because for these principal roles, they really wanted actresses with social media. So collectively, these 3 girls, I mean, just amongst them, probably have 20 million followers. So that was the number they wanted to hit. So I was the director and I were just praying that Arden would say yes. And of course, we would have loved to work with someone who's Taiwanese American, but we were just the important thing is to have this great representation of an Asian woman on screen. So we got it. The other thing I want to say about this experience that was interesting was the director, her name is Elsa Down, and so the other thing is I've worked with all female directors so far in my 3 projects. And so Alyssa and I were very united in that we wanted the film to be this diverse, and she knew how important it was to me to have an Asian woman playing Honor. So what we ended up doing was a trick that Alyssa had done on her last film, and we went through the screenplay, and in every little place that we could, we reminded the reader that this is an Asian American family. So instead of saying Honor's mom, we put Mrs. Liang, Mrs. Liang, Mrs. Liang, Mrs. Liang, right, in every line of dialogue, everywhere that we could. And when there was a mention of Honor's grandfather, we called him, well, this is going to be an Asian man, and I can't remember the exact moment, but we really went through and in every way we could just tried to make it so that even if they went to a Caucasian actress, she would read the script and think, well, this was clearly written for, this was not written for me, and make it clear. So Yeah, so I'm sure I'll have more to say about once we start shooting, but that's kind of where that is right now. Yeah, I think maybe that's a good place to stop, and then we can, you know, kind of talk collectively and answer questions and stuff.
So we'll have an open forum for questions or share experiences. If anyone has any question or something you'd like to mention to talk.
I'm second generation Taiwanese American. My parents, they lived in Taipei. And even though they were first generation Taiwanese Americans, they were not typical TA parents when it came to academics. I have two younger siblings, and they were the typical Asian student, but I wasn't, and my parents were fine. And even when it came down to trying to figure out which colleges to go to, they knew I was not like my siblings, so they're like, you know what, just do what you think you can do. And eventually, my dad had told me to go into education, which I know is like 20 years of the careers. But he was fine with it. He was fine with it. In fact, he told me years ago, even before I got married, he's like, I can't even tell you who to choose to marry. I was like, whoa, what? Because you don't think of Taiwanese parents saying that, but he's like, you gotta live your own life. And we can only do so much. And I think he gets it from, because of the job that he has, he really enjoys it. And it shows when he interacts with other people. And for that, I'm most grateful, because I have two young boys, and they're in gym, and they're my oldest one's in swim. And I make sure they're like diversified in what they do, because when I was younger, I'm like, I'm not getting these straight A's, what's wrong with me? But then over the years, I realized if you don't know how to communicate well, that's probably more the downfall than academics, because communication gets you further in life than grades. And I see it in my brother. He's an attorney, and it just fits him very well because he knows how to communicate. So.
Anybody has any share experiences? Actually, I want to open up some share experiences from the older generation. I think the ladies are talking about the experiences as Taiwanese American. I think it's the second generation or 1.5 or Taiwanese New Zealander. But also, they have the root from the parents. And also the society changed in America. So how about the older generation? When you come to USA for working or study and then stay in America for career, what's the challenge identity you guys have throughout your career? Anybody want to share? I think times changing. So.
I'll share my experience with you. When you talk about choice of career and choice of college, I think you are pretty lucky. You are in the United States. You can just apply and take SAT. You have more colleges to choose from. And I'm sure, Dina, your parents have told you this. In Taiwan, we have competitive exam, and you put down your first wish, second wish, and it was very hard to get into Taida. I was lucky I went in, but I wanted to be in the foreign language department. That was the first choice. I didn't get in. I ended up going to Taida, but law school. I went to law school there, and that was my second pick. I wanted to go to law school anyway because my parents were in business, and my mother, when I started, the law school there only has 4 years. So as soon as I went to law school, she made me write all her contracts. I mean, didn't really know how to do it, but I would just, write everything she told me to do it. So it was fine to go to law school. And then I graduated from law school. I came to graduate school in this country with a law degree from Taiwan. I only had two choices. One was to go to law school in the States. It was hard to do that, so I was in the political science department. So I went to study in the foreign relations in the political science department. And when I got my first master's degree, I wanted to go to work for the United Nations. It didn't work out that way because political science major was hard to find a job. So I ended up going to get my second master's degree in library science to be a professional law librarian. Then I think I was lucky to work in the law school. My first job was at St. Louis University Law School, and I was a professional law librarian there. And then I came to California. I went to work for the Alameda County Law Library. I was director of the Alameda County Law Library for 30 years. So, you know, it was a hard struggle, much harder than the second generation. We still have a little language barrier, and also the environment was different from Taiwan. So I think your generation is doing much better. I think your parents wanted to have you go to medical school and law school. Even in Taiwan, my parents wanted me to go to medical school and law school. I couldn't do medical school because I didn't like math, I didn't like science. I would not be qualified to enter in the medical profession. And in law school, I think I like being in law school. I like being a law librarian. So that became my career, and I'm happy with that. Now I'm retired.
You did very well.
Thank you for sharing that. I enjoyed hearing about your experience. If I can just comment on, I'll stand up so people can hear me. I think one of the fundamental differences between growing up in Taiwan and growing up in the United States is that I see is, you know, my parents did tell me that when they applied, they have to check off what major. I mean, to me, that is inconceivable that you would know at 17 or 18 years old what you want to do with the rest of your life, and that you would be locked into a field based on whatever test score you got. You know, like, what if I became an engineer because I happened to score that? And I just, you have, the lack of choice is, you know, I think probably one of the biggest differences. And I tell people all the time, you know, the older generation, that one of the great things about this country, about living in the United States, is there's second, third, fourth chances. You know, you're never locked into something. I went to law school with people who, I had a classmate who had a PhD in engineering, and then he worked and didn't like it, and he went to law school. I had a classmate who was a physician and decided she wanted to go to law school. So you can change your career, you can explore different things, and it doesn't have to be that once you choose, that's the end of it. And I think that's probably one of the things that I'm most thankful for about growing up in this country, and that's why I feel like you know, unlike my parents who felt like you have to choose something right away and stick with that decision, people who grow up in the United States feel like they have a lot more freedom to explore, because you really do have more opportunities to change your mind later.